Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, Steven. And I'm mostly over my cold, but not entirely. It
Only like
was,
3 months later.
yeah. Well, I mean, man, the cold I got from the Boston Major was
Brutal.
yeah, I did not kick that for a solid 2 months.
The one that I got held me for a good month as well. I mean, pretty sure
Yeah.
it's the same one, but it was.
Oh yeah,
Whatever that Boston bug was brutal.
it was awful. It's one of the worst colds I've had, and this one's not as bad. I can actually breathe through my nose, and I could not long after the podcast, but still coughing, still clearing my throat, still blowing my nose. So I'll be muting myself periodically, but for the most part, we're here to talk about Dota 2.
Mm-hmm.
And since our last edition, where we talked about basically new rosters, that was the centerpiece of that episode. I was talking about the new teams that got introduced after the international, and then the old teams that got tweaked. We have seen a lot of qualifier action since then, and we've had a total of, well, more than a total of 18, because we've got 6 for each of the new Valve sanctioned tournaments, kind of whatever we're calling these, the major minors.
The Dota Pro League, I think, is the official term.
Oh God, is it?
It makes me want to vomit. Yeah, let me check that blog again, because they wrote an article. They published a blog thing about this, and I wanted to puke. The Dota Pro Circuit is what it's called, and that was my reaction when I read it. They posted this on the 15th of September. Do I read this in my best Dota 2 announcer pretentious voice, or do I just...
why not?
Just 1 month has passed since Team Liquid were crowned world champions at the International, and already players, teams, and fans alike turn their attentions to the upcoming competitive season and the next chance to claim the Aegis of Champions in 2018. I honestly can't take myself seriously doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, 11 majors, 16 minors that comprise the Dota Pro Circuit, an 8-month season of tournaments held around the world that offer qualifying points used to determine the 8 direct invites. And then they give information about all this stuff. And the most important thing is that phase 1 of registration, in which managers can re-register previous teams and players can accept invites or drop from previous teams, will end at 5 p.m. PDT on September 22nd. That was last week. And that's why there was a lot of rushing where teams either got entirely kicked or stuff like that, is because those were teams like No Diggity, for example, we'll talk about in a minute, where they entirely disbanded. Not so much necessarily because they're quitting, but because the team couldn't commit to a full team right yet. And so they broke apart. And then on October 3rd at 5 p.m. Pacific will be the hard lock date for when everything new has to be locked in. So that means that there's 2 weeks for teams and players to shuffle what cards are left and put them back together.
Yeah, we've
seen
seen
also why we're seeing Optic and Immortals and all of those pickups happen right now, because things have those teams that have already locked, they know they can pick up.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of activity, and I mean a lot of activity, even since the last episode. We've seen, like you mentioned, No Diggity broke up. I believe Saxa pulled out of the...
Saxa said he needed to go focus on other things, and quite frankly, I respect that. He's made a little... Actually, I don't think he did. I think one of his other teammates did. They said Saxa said he needed a break. He needed to go take care of himself. He had family concerns or whatever.
Yeah,
and it was real life had to come before Dota. And, I mean, when you got an 8-month season coming up and you're not in a place where you can handle that, you go. Even in the NFL, you have that happen.
Yeah.
And the NFL's got a lot more money.
Yeah. Considerably more money. But it's... You can't blame them. Still stinks for that team, because that was a very talent-rich team, and going to be curious to see.
They can still come back. I mean, they just have to find somebody to replace Saxa, which is going to be damn near impossible. But, it's possible.
Yeah. And, still plenty of activity elsewhere. North America, SEA, South America. South America remains a clusterfuck for the most part.
That is an insult to clusterfuck. Like, it is worse than a clusterfuck. I don't know what it is, but like South America is just...
It's a mess.
It is a mess. And I really hate calling any region that, but it really is.
Well, North America was looking like it was going to be a mess, but it's been very fun since then.
It's been a competitive mess. I think it's a good way to look at it. Like North America's been. We saw Immortals win a qualifier. We saw EG win a qualifier and get invited to something, I think. We saw Dire, now OG, get... Oh, God, that's something we're going to have to talk about. Dire/OG
Not
won
really
something.
OG, though?
Optic Gaming.
Yeah,
better?
Optic Gaming.
Every time I announce a team, I'm just gonna put on my...
Somebody else has dibs on
stick up
the
my
OG.
ass.
Somebody else has dibs on OG at the moment, at least.
Red Bull.
Yeah. So
I wonder if that's why they changed their name and logo.
maybe.
I mean, it happened too long ago for me to really believe it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Optic Gaming was like, okay, now that OG is no longer green and black, we're going to take this. It's also possible that OG was open for it because Optic Gaming was looking at suing them.
Also possible. I don't have any information about that, but it would be
that's
far from the
110%
craziest.
speculation. Like, don't take that on.
I could see it happening. So, qualifiers. We're just going to rattle them off. Who's going to which tournaments? We're going to do them in chronological order. First up, we've got the StarLadder Invitational Season 3. Or I-League Invitational. So direct invites to that were Team Liquid and Newbie. This is a $300,000 tournament, by the way. Qualifies as a Valve minor. Liquid, Newbie both got invited. Makes sense given their very, very strong performances at TI7. The European qualifier was won by Team Secret. The CIS qualifier was interestingly won by Navi. Complexity Gaming won the North America qualifier. SG Esports took South America. Vici Gaming took China. And Wineski took SEA. And I wouldn't say that there's too much surprising there at face value, but we're going to get into this a little bit later. We're seeing some maybe turnarounds from a couple of these teams, particularly 1 Complexity, 2 Team Secret, 3 Navi. And just jump over to PGL Bucharest. So direct invites to that were EG and LGD. Again, EG has been there, done that forever now. LGD looked very strong at TI7. North America qualifier winner was Immortals. That is the former MVP Phoenix team, formerly Team Phoenix, now Immortals. The not so
Immortals, Phoenix exploded MVP Phoenix.
Yes. Digital Chaos South America won the South America qualifier. Team Secret won the Europe qualifier, and Navi won CIS, Mineski won SEA, and Vici Gaming J Thunder, also known as Vici Gaming J, won China. And finally, ESL One Hamburg. Yeah, ESL One Hamburg. Sorry, they have the same direct invites, and that confused me for a second, which was both Team Liquid and Newbie. Europe qualifier was won by Team Secret. Virtus Pro won the CIS qualifier. China was won by Keen Gaming. That is the former
Keen Gaming? Hang on, let me pull it up. Sorry.
Home Keen. They were formerly of eHome Keen. Formerly of eHome Keen, broke off to form their own organization, maybe. But either way, they're their own team. They're their own brand now, and they won the Chinese qualifier to ESL One Hamburg, which is the season's first major $1 million prize pool, online and offline play. It should be fun. Happy Feet, interestingly, won the Southeast Asia qualifier, which kind of came out of nowhere. Fnatic.
My understanding is they kind of eked that one out. It was one of those things where Southeast Asia kind of exploded in a good way in terms of just the way that everything happened, and then EE did EE things.
Yeah,
and that kind of murdered everything.
Well,
so like, can I point out really quickly this roster for Fnatic?
Yeah, go for it.
So you've got Eternal Envy. Okay, it's Jackie Mao. He does whatever the hell he wants.
Yep.
Excalibur from Sweden. That Excalibur. Ohio and DJ. All right, that's SEA. They're allowed. And then PGL.
Yep.
What the hell?
We discussed this previously last time. I'm wondering if the long-term plan for Fnatic right now is to move back to being a European team. And that's
I mean,
why
it would
they
make
have
sense, especially for the Sweden squad. But at the same time, like the and that's the one problem here is that for those of us that are Westerners, that's a very Western focused idea, and that's a very selfish idea because Fnatic, their fan base in Southeast Asia is so disgustingly large. I mean, there's a reason that there are people who refer to Mushi as the Southeast Asian Dendi.
Yeah.
And so when Mushi was on Fnatic, like, there's no way in hell that you even remotely consider leaving Southeast Asia. Now that he's left, maybe you consider it. But again, like, the Fnatic brand in Southeast Asia is huge. Like, it's just absolutely massive. So,
yeah, it's definitely curious, but I mean, like, basically that's the only way I can look at it. I do like that lineup doesn't necessarily scream synergy to me. And,
not at all. And a lot of that comes down to envy, to be honest. Like,
I mean, Excalibur has been around for so long. He can do whatever he wants, basically.
Yeah.
PGL and Eternal Envy have had a lot of success on a few different teams.
Yeah. And what I'm saying there is I can see Excalibur do whatever he wants. PGL, he's a position 5. They can do whatever the hell they want. Ohio and DJ are great. But I don't think that those two work well with EE. Like, I just don't think that those play styles work.
Yeah, that's my main thought. Like I said, the fact that they brought in 3 non-Southeast Asian players to a Southeast Asian team, like, and especially since Fnatic, isn't actually a Southeast Asian organization. Long term, like I said, I don't know if they have a contract. But when Ohio and if Ohio and DJ leave, I don't see them sticking around. And
100%. Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gone. You go somewhere else. But
yeah, they're based in England, so.
Well, that's funny because they're technically based in England, but their Counter-Strike team is entirely Swedish.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been primarily Swedish. But yeah, I mean,
Virtus Pro's Counter-Strike team is Polish, so.
Well, yeah, but Virtus Pro is Russian, like, they're right next door. So that kind of makes sense.
Don't let them hear you say that in Poland, though.
Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro.
Yeah,
Virtus Pro. Am I doing it right?
Pretty much.
Okay, good.
But no, I have enough relatives who were slaves of the Soviet Union, basically, to finger wag. But anyway, so, yeah, the fact that Happy Feet won the Southeast Asian qualifier for $1 million tournament, big deal, very big deal, and they had to go through basically everybody. I mean, the list of teams on that Southeast Asian qualifier is TNC, Fnatic, Execration, Mineski, Fire Dragoon, WGU, and Clutch Gamers, and then some others. Like, it was a 12-team qualifier, and everybody was there pretty much. So it's an achievement that they got through there. It is an achievement that they got through there.
Sorry, this is not Dota related. I'll leave that for later.
Right. Well, your mic just started
to view stuff at work, and so I just got an Overwatch esports alert that is huge. I'll also fix my mic 1 second.
All right. So finally we have EG was forced to qualify for ESL One Hamburg, but they did. Not a huge shock. Even though North America is very competitive right now, they're still EG. Nobody else is really established enough to be looked at as a favorite over them at this point. And,
we're talking about NA?
Yeah, the North American qualifier for ESL One. And finally, South America won by SG Esports.
Yeah. Really quickly, as far as because I caught that very last that last thing about nobody being a favorite over EG. I agree. Yeah. However, I do think that Evil Geniuses was looking weak enough that they aren't, in my eyes, as like before. It was like
they're not a slam dunk anymore. Long story short.
Evil Geniuses, right at the very edge of the screen, and then everybody else is down here. And now EG's dropped a bit, and other teams have pulled up. maybe even a little bit more. So while they still definitely look top dog, and they're looking better every day, although they are taking a break here, you know, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but those are the 3 sanctioned tournaments that the qualifiers have been done for. PGL Open.
One second. Let me. All right, continue. I'm just gonna.
Well, there's another qualifier underway for the Dota pit.
Yeah. Well, I just want to check. It's a friend of mine. I'm just gonna plug her. Deja has been working on it. She's got a calendar that she built for qualifiers and everything. Oh my god, this is a mess. But that's also because that's how many there were. So like last week, we had Kings Cup America that was running. We had the StarLadder Minor, PGL Open, ESL Hamburg. Is that really it? There were just that many. The Perfect World Minor is the one that just started, and the Dota Pit Minor just started. So yeah, that's okay. There was the Perfect World one is the one that I was forgetting. But yeah, the fact that there's, you know, all these qualifiers running at once just turns it into a wall of events.
Yeah, it's been very hectic if you want to actually watch everything. I picked up a pretty good bit of it.
That said, October slows down.
October slows down, but we still have the 3 actual tournaments.
Yeah, my 4. You have
4.
Minor, you have I-League Invitational in Ukraine. I'm not going to try and read the city. You have the PGL Open Bucharest Minor.
In Kiev.
Is that? I guess it is. Okay. The name here is the Ukrainian name for it, and it's Oh, I can't read Ukrainian very well. And then you have the PGL Open Bucharest Minor, where a lot of people were mad because there's not going to be a live audience. Whatever, it's a minor, deal with it. And then you have ESL One Hamburg, which is the 26th. Like the fact that ESL Hamburg is literally 30 days away, not even 30 days, 29 days away, is insane to me.
It's a big one.
And then I guess technically it's in November. November 2nd is the AMD Sapphire Dota Pit League Minor in Split, Croatia.
Okay. So, very competitive qualifiers for the most part, but I'm going to once again circle back to North America. Absolutely. Complete clusterfuck. In a good way. In a good way. So, the North America, again, the 3 different winners for those qualifiers in North America were Complexity Gaming, Immortals, and EG. And then on top of that was the
Complexity was the team I had forgotten before. That's right. My bad.
Yeah. And what was the Kings Cup, which was won by the Dire, I believe.
Yes, which is now Optic Gaming. And by the way, that Kings Cup winner actually gets a direct invite to the North America qualifiers for the Beyond the Summit Major in however long.
Yep. Which is
huge.
Let me look it up.
For OG.
Do they actually have a date scheduled yet?
No. Wait, yes they do. Yes they do. What is that?
Nah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Specifics don't matter. Point is that they get this free lock-in that they don't have to worry about pretty much. And don't let me forget. I want to ask you, because I want to hear your rant on this, about the Captain's Mode Minor.
All right. It's not really a rant.
Well, I want to see if I can pop a rant out of you on that one. That's all.
So wait, Captain Draft 3.0 is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. The shenanigans tournament that they've managed to turn into a full minor, and a lot of people were super pissed about it.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah. I mean, quite frankly, I look forward to it. I think that it would be cool to see. And it's a minor. Like the amount of money and the amount of points that are involved are so small compared to a major.
Yeah, it's definitely relatively negligible.
It's not like, it's not like, 2 weeks before the PGL finals, like that last one in May, that's worth like 1.5 majors combined. Like it's not like that one is a, oh, by the way, we're changing it a week before to be all random deathmatch. Oh God. I mean, and this is like, it's a legit-ish tournament mode. Like it's not like we're playing, okay, y'all got to play 1v1s, 1v1 mid over and over and over again to determine who wins. Like you just have a drafting pool limiter, which I think is great.
I wouldn't mind seeing fucking the 4-team Dota match thing. Do that. Why not?
Because that would be insane and somebody would cry.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they would, and I would pay to watch that, but it would be insane.
Exactly. And I'd pay I'd buy a $2 ticket for that. But anyway, so very competitive North American qualifiers. Navi looking pretty strong. Again, they won the CIS qualifiers for both the PGL Open and
Dream League Invitational. Sorry,
yeah,
StarLadder Invitational, not Dream League. The other one.
StarLadder. Yeah, they ended up
put on One Hamburg.
Yeah, they also looked good for the ESL One Hamburg one.
I think they took second there.
Third place. They ended up losing to Virtus Pro in the semifinals. But they were also the only team to actually give Virtus Pro a loss during that entire thing. So they looked strong there. Mineski, again, looking pretty good. 1-2 qualifiers for Southeast Asia. It's honestly, I'm a little bit concerned about Southeast Asia. I thought that Southeast Asia was going to be what America or what North America is now in terms of having a lot of teams that look pretty darn good. But I'm feeling like it might end up being more, teams, minus Team Liquid and OG from Europe kind of clusterfuck. China, still China. Everybody's good. There are a million good teams, and South America. But Team Secret won 3 qualifiers, and that's impressive. So moving on. Those are the qualifiers. We're going to have me talk about why I think Dota 2 is doomed. And that was, it's actually, it's the lead thing in the headline to this video. So I probably should have talked about it earlier. But we're doing it now. So, I don't know how much you follow Counter-Strike. Not you, the MTarget, but everybody. Just in terms of stuff like the PEA, because I brought this up last time. And the different ways to monetize esports. And how Valve does it versus how, say, Blizzard or Riot do it. Riot, I forget who discussed it this way. It was the guy who did that Rolling Stones article or RollingStone.com article. Yeah, on Cloud9 over the years.
Yep.
And he basically qualified it as, Riot has a mostly closed league for League of Legends. Then you have a completely closed league in the Overwatch League. And then you have just anything goes in both Counter-Strike, which is more so the focus, but also in Dota 2, which, is premier, like top level, anything goes. Like, there's no structure to Dota 2. And with the initial discussion of the new major minor format, I was a little bit concerned, both in terms of, one, the lack of structure, 2, the lack of oversight, really, from Valve, and 3, the enduring focus of on the international, because that's such a huge moneymaker for Valve at this point. It's guaranteed tens of millions of dollars just from battle passes / compendiums.
Yep.
And the way I look at it is, and I think it was Richard Lewis who talked about it this way, but basically Valve's approach to esports monetization is they look at it as like a stage, and everybody's just, going to put on their play on that stage.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
And once again, in comparison to Riot and Blizzard, who have a lot more structure, and there's still lots of these esports problems in terms of uncertainty, but again, there's a lot more structure there. than with Valve.
Yeah, definitely.
And the problem with that is with Counter-Strike, that it's just basically a void and everybody's trying to fill it. And that's not really it's not a good thing. And it's not something that will necessarily resolve itself. You know, it's a void and eventually it'll get filled, but the thing that might end up filling it is the game dying. And that applies to Counter-Strike, that applies to Dota, that applies to, you know, PUBG, Smite, etc., etc. Well, actually not really Smite, but any esport.
Smite's its own problem.
Yeah, Smite has its own things, but basically any game that doesn't have a very defined, doesn't have its publisher's hands in it on the business end. You know, that's an issue that's going to be had. And with Counter-Strike, the way that kind of manifested itself was, after a certain point, there was just a lot of lack of interest in individual tournaments. You know, oversaturation is a term that's thrown around in both esports and in my primary sport of MMA. You know, there is so much you can choose from in terms of what you watch and when you watch it, that there's no real point to actually watching any of it, because if you just feel like watching some Counter-Strike or watching some MMA, you know, UFC puts on 40 events a year, Bellator puts on 20, World Series of Fighting / PFL now puts on 10 or so. You can basically turn on the TV and there's a decent chance you're going to be able to watch some MMA. And in esports, it's even worse, because, you know, not everybody watches every esport, but if you've got multiple esports to watch, there's a lot just in any one game to watch.
I'm gonna cut in here really quickly. As a multi esports person, especially, you know, back in the day, you know, I was working 4 or 5 esports, and let me tell you, that alone is a full-time job, just trying to watch all of it when you've got everything going on at once. So good luck before you even get to the other stuff. So like, and a lot of those include esports that are a little bit more controlled in some ways. So I'll let you go ahead and continue. I do have some thoughts that can kind of slip in.
Yeah. So I'm getting to the point now. Does my my expository info on it. So the way that void that Valve leaves ultimately gets filled. In Counter-Strike, you have different tournaments kind of trying to establish themselves as the top dog. And on top of that, more recently, you've seen stuff like the PEA, which is, you know, in reality, a league, in a good way, I should say. It's a bunch of different teams trying to come together to, you know, organize their own season and tournament at the end of it, with money being distributed to the winners. And I think that is, you know, not necessarily the best thing for Counter-Strike, just because of how it's been panning out. You know, PEA ended up having a huge kerfuffle at the end of last year, I believe, in terms of basically a bunch of players revolting against it. But ultimately, it's not a bad business idea. And, you know, having players actually have a singular event to tune into is a good thing. And having it not just be one singular event like the International is also a good thing. And the infrastructure for that doesn't really apply to Dota 2. Like with Dota 2, or let's say you're Cloud9. You know, you're an established an esports organization, you're established in a bunch of different games. But you're not really established in Dota 2 in any permanent way, because they keep blowing up in your face.
And I think I really just want to cut in here really quickly. I think a part of the problem with that was because previously there was no consistency, and Cloud9 kept picking up really bad choices.
They had some success initially, but
But well, yes. I mean, initial success is fine, but like I said, I think that I don't know. I feel like, and part of this is because I'm a little bit motivated by the fact that we see Immortals and Optic and Kingwin and I mean, we've got freaking Vici Gaming picked up 2 squads this season.
Yeah.
2 more squads. So there's a lot of movement going on there that gives me hope. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, so there's a void there that is theoretically supposed to be filled by the teams. And in Counter-Strike, you do have teams doing that with the PEA, with to a lesser degree the ESL,
all that stuff, yeah,
and etc. There's no real reason for any team to even stick around in Dota 2 necessarily. I saw reactions after TI7 about Team Liquid winning, and it was basically some of the I forget what their name is, but they're esports writer on Twitter. They write for ESPN.
It's Fionn.
Yeah, Fionn.
It's either Fionn or Jacob, and I gotta be right back. I've got
I'll keep going.
Just keep going on your own for about 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
So the reaction initially was, "Wow, this is a great weekend for Team Liquid," and the pushback against that was basically that it's not that great of a weekend for Team Liquid because they're not really going to see much money from the TI7 win. The way that Valve has structured the Dota 2 competitive scene, all the power is in the hands of the players. And the players are ultimately looking out for number one. And they're not really, and this isn't necessarily a knock on them, but they have no real concern for their teams. If you're sponsored by a team like Optic Gaming now, it's nice. But if you get a better offer, there's no real reason to not take it in Dota 2. And eventually that will come back to bite pretty much any given organization in the same way that it's come back to bite once again and again and again. Once again, Cloud9. They've had, I think, 4 different Dota 2 teams that have ultimately collapsed in on themselves. And that's not good, and there aren't the kind of built-in monetization options in Dota 2 that there are in Counter-Strike. If you own a top-end Counter-Strike team like Cloud9, you can make a lot of money in Counter-Strike just by selling stickers for guns. That isn't really there for Dota 2 anymore. There were banners back in like 2012, 2013, and those are gone at this point. So, if you're an esports organization, why would you even give Dota 2 a second look? You don't get money from the game itself. You don't really necessarily get much of a cut from your team winning. People joke about the whole 10% thing, but even just the 10%, I mean, you're not. That doesn't get you that far. That employs your manager basically. Unless you're like insanely successful, in which case it doesn't do much more than pay your manager. So with teams having no real incentive to invest in Dota 2 in the same way that they have incentive to invest in Counter-Strike, there's nobody really there to fill that void. And when you don't have anything there to fill that void, it's just a void and there's nothing there. And it'll eventually have people on the business end lose interest. And because it's a video game, the player base is going to organically lose interest, which, is happening already. It's a constant discussion on Reddit how PUBG is basically cannibalizing the entire Dota, or not the entire, but a significant portion of the Dota 2 player base. So with players leaving and teams having no real reason to stick around, and players not really having the tools or knowledge to organize, what's going to happen? And I don't know. I don't really know. There's nobody really there to fill that void. There's no real money there for anybody to try and fill that void. And if that doesn't change, and there's no sign that it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen with Dota 2, basically. And that's not a good thing. That's ultimately not a good thing. Now, the counterpoint to that, which MTarget already brought up, is that there is a huge influx of not really necessarily capital, because I don't know how much money the Optic Gamings and the Immortals and et cetera, are investing into Dota 2. But since TI7, there really has been a noticeable uptick in interest in Dota 2 from different outfits. We have Immortals, which is a pretty big esports organization, who have, hey, what's up? MTarget's back.
Sorry about that. I've got family leaving early tomorrow morning.
Okay. Did you hear anything that I said?
I literally just came back.
Okay. But anyway, so discussing the counterpoint, which you brought up, there has been a noticeable uptick in terms of who is interested in Dota 2. You have Immortals, which is a relatively large esports organization, now has a Dota 2 team. They signed the former Team Phoenix / MVP Phoenix. You have Optic Gaming, again, another relatively large esports organization. They signed the Dire, the PPD stack.
Kingwin bought back in after Kingwin left Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Kingwin got back in after dumping their Counter-Strike team. I believe earlier, like a month or two ago, G2 Esports said that they were interested in...
G2 has expressed an interest. And I want to say another league org did. There's always rumors that Splice is getting involved, but because those rumors have been around so long at this point, I just don't believe it.
Yeah, and obviously before that, you had Hellraisers sign a team. You had Cloud9 again. Got into Dota 2,
and that's the reason for me with Cloud9 is that they keep making bad life choices.
I mean, getting into Dota 2 is kind of a bad life choice, is the thing.
Well, yes, Dota 2 is a bad life choice. But honestly, like Eternal Envy, I am somebody who, for the longest time, was a hardcore Eternal Envy fan. Massive. But at this point, I can't be anymore. I can't keep rooting for the guy. Like, I have to start looking at him more cynically. And I feel bad about that. But I can't.
I'm still kind of infatuated with him, but I mean, I don't know how much professional wrestling you know. Do you know much professional wrestling? A little bit.
Very little bit.
So there's back in the 1990s with WCW versus WWE or WWF. I don't know if you know the NWO. There's a guy named Kevin Nash in WCW who's known as Diesel in WWF. And it was stunning how little of a shit he gave and how successful he was in spite of that. Because he gave no shits about anything.
Yeah, but like Envy does give shits. That's the problem. It's like, if he gave no shit and was only pursuing the best, fine.
I'm just talking about how there are deep flaws with him.
Okay.
And that makes him more appealing to me. Mm-hmm. So I am not necessarily going to get turned off by watching him do all sorts of things that end up adversely affecting others. But I'm also I'm fine with that. But that's just the kind of sports thing.
If I'm rooting for a team, I want to feel like that team actually has a shot of winning, or to be a team that's so bad that I know that I just shouldn't bother rooting for them. And then you've got Envy, who he will either join a team that is so bad that you shouldn't bother rooting for them until they start doing well and then shit the bed, or he joins a team that should be doing well and then they shit the bed. So like that's my issue, is that it's not... Love the guy. Great guy. Pretty good work ethic. Yeah, he whines a bit. Yeah, he destroys items at the end of games, which, come on, dude, like, stop it. you're not 5. And those are the things that really got on my nerves, was when he started whining after he went to Southeast Asia because he got in trouble for item destroying in a ranked game.
I mean, honestly,
and he's like, but I've been doing it for years. Why am I getting in trouble now? And it's like, because somebody finally noticed who has like a ban stick. It's called you actually being held to your responsibilities. It's like, if I've been out stealing, robbing convenience stores for the last 5 years and I only get caught now, I'm not going to say, why am I getting in trouble now? I'm going to say, okay, I just got caught. Same thing.
Yeah. Honestly, when it comes to pro players in pub games, I really don't care.
I mean, like that I don't care either, but like normally, but it's one of those things where that's one of those examples where it's him rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I mean, all pros, if there is a pro whining about something that they did that got them in trouble, I will call them on it if I notice it. Like, I'm not gonna go back in time to call them on something, but like there's all kinds of things there that we all should get called on.
Yeah,
at least a little bit, especially when we're public figures. So
honestly, maybe it's just where esports is right now.
That too.
But unless they unless they do something like actually objectively bad, it doesn't really get to me at all.
Fair enough.
If, like, I forget who it was, but there was a league player who got suspended for like having racist usernames or something like that. That's bad. You shouldn't do that. And they got punished for it, and they should have gotten punished for it.
Yeah.
But if you,
and that's where I stand for the most part, is that kind of thing.
But if you're IX Mike and somebody tries to take off lane from you, so you just, intentionally feed, I don't care.
I mean, I do care because, like, come on, Mike. But like, my issue is like, with like the league player getting, banned for racist names or using racist slurs or whatever, is if he then starts whining about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it's like, stop it. Like, if he had just, taken his ban and held it and moved on, cool. But because he's like, but other pros do it. And it's like, yeah. And they started getting caught, which is why they had to start cracking down on all of you morons. Next.
Yeah. But anyway, so my rant, since you missed most of it, was, long story short, there's a void in Dota 2 on the business end, which there's no real incentive there for teams to fill because of just, how Dota 2 lacks the monetization options for teams that are there in Counter-Strike. And with stuff like the enduring focus on the international, stuff like the new qualifier system, which prevents you from having regional leagues, that it's just basically Valve is preventing teams and most tournament organizers who are not the PGLs or the ESLs, big names. They're really leaving very few established folks very few options to actually make money in Dota 2, and with a declining player base, that's not good long term.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think that the like player base will start to climb again once the next patch drops. I think it's at a super low point, but I think part of that is because of how long it's been since we got a patch, where the game is at right now. A lot of people are starting to get bored or tired or whatever. And again, it's just time to see what happens sort of next step. I don't think that, Dota 2 may have hit its climax, but I do think that it's got plenty of time. If a game like Smite can manage to, try to kill itself twice and still be cooking, Dota's fine. Dota's got plenty of time.
And like you mentioned before, and as I mentioned as you were coming back, there is reason to be optimistic because of how many different organizations have bought in. But maybe I'm just being pessimistic. But I feel like a lot of things, even though the players are feeling good right now because of how much money there is on the table for them, even though the coaches and teams that do exist,
it'll be interesting to see what happens,
are feeling good. I think that from a long-term perspective, that it's not very good because the structure just isn't there, and ultimately, who has all the power in Dota 2? It's Valve,
players
who is Valve and the players.
Yeah.
And
and there is that article that Scant wrote that is an interesting one, and I don't know if I agree with it, but he pretty much said, "This is your fault, pro players. Whenever Valve does something, you have the opportunity. When pro players kind of do this, but Dad thing.
I don't know what you mean.
When Valve does something, they kind of whine about it. They're like, oh, this sucks, and like whatever. But they don't do anything about it. They don't actively stand up and say anything because they're afraid of pissing off Valve.
That's true.
And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm somebody that, when I was working in Smite, I kept my mouth shut plenty of times. The times that I did open my mouth, I got stepped on hard. So, I get it. But, there's a difference in some ways. But as a player, like, they have so much power, and I get it. Whether or not they want to use it, that's their own prerogative. But a lot of these things do end up kind of being the players' faults in some ways. Not in all ways, but in some.
It's definitely a tough issue because, I mean, one, both in terms of the international cultural implications of pushing against the top authority figure in something. That's not necessarily a good thing. Also, if like, let's say you're SLi3 and you don't like what's happening, what do? You can bitch on Twitter and that's about it. It's not like Gabe Newell's going to take your calls. It's not like whoever this mystery council of direct invite folks who decide who gets invited to the international in previous years have any real say. It's not like,
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, the only other real option that's there would be like actual organizing of the players and like in terms of like a labor union or an association.
And that's not happening in Dota until after Counter-Strike and League. And Leagues is a joke, so that's not even really going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, in MMA, they're struggling with that. And MMA has been around for longer and the money is bigger. And they are embarrassing themselves in terms of their inability to get their shit together. So I have even less faith in esports players being able to get their shit together if actual fighters with actual managers, if they can't get their shit together.
Yep.
And I really have even less faith in a ragtag bunch of social awkwards.
Yep.
So I don't really blame the players much because they don't really have the tools or the know-how to really push back against anything Valve does.
Yeah.
That would theoretically fall on the teams.
And who knows, maybe the teams can push back now that you've got some bigger names with some more money behind them. Immortals, talk about an org that's willing to do shit for their morals. I'll talk about this just briefly because of Counter-Strike. It's not Dota, but Counter-Strike team showed up late. 3 players didn't. And made some inappropriate remarks, and the one player was benched indefinitely. He skipped the meeting that he was supposed to have with management. They said, look, we can't let you play until we sit down and have a Skype call. He missed the Skype call. So they told the coach and all the players he is indefinitely suspended until he has this call. You cannot play with him on the team. So they had their match with the coach playing as a stand-in map 1. They get bodied. So the 2 players that had already been, docked pay and everything else said, screw it, we're not going to play without this guy that's been indefinitely suspended. So they bring him in, they play, and they say, look, you broke the rules. We don't care that you just want to win. Our job is to make sure that you all represent the brand that we are building here. Immediately fired the one guy, just kicked his contract and everything. And the other 2 guys, they put on indefinite suspension. And they've told the world, look, you want to buy those 2 out? Go for it. And they even said, look, you want to buy those 2 out and pick him up and take our next guaranteed major spot? Fine. We don't care. That's not the way this company works. And the fact that the Immortals are willing to do that when Counter-Strike is the way that it is, tells me that they'd be willing to do that in Dota as well. Now, that said, their Dota team is one that's going to keep their mouth shut and play because that's the way those players play.
Yeah, but that's a professional team, more or less.
Yeah, that's going to be a good team. Well, a well put together team, not necessarily a good team, but
Yeah, let me actually pull up the full list of players just because I don't know them all by heart yet. Yeah, I mean, okay, so PyCat, CCNC, Xi, Misery, PPD, basically all of them have been on.
Oh, that's Optic. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Why? Oh, the South Korea. Okay, yeah, you were talking.
Yeah, because I was talking about Immortals, but yeah, no, they're also. Optic Gaming is another organization that, if Optic as well as their players choose to, they can swing and they can also look reasonable. I'll put it that way. I think that Optic, they've had decisions in the past where it's a little questionable, but I think that.
Yeah, with that group that Optic has, though, my thought is basically everybody outside of CNC has been they've been on a big team.
Yeah.
Xi and PPD obviously were on EG for a long time. They know what's what. Misery, he's been on basically every big team and has. I can't think of anything that he's done that's been unprofessional.
Sorry, my brain is lost. Misery. I mean, I can think of some times where he was like mediumly professional, but he's certainly never been unprofessional.
Yeah, I can't think of anything with him being unprofessional.
I mean, he's popped off some, but that's certainly not unprofessional.
Yeah, PyCat again. I mean, he's been around for so effing long that if he was toxic or unprofessional in any way, he wouldn't have been.
We know about it. Wouldn't be around.
Yeah, he wouldn't be 10 years deep into his Dota career at this point if he was, somebody who was hard to work with. So like I said, the only guy who it doesn't really fit that bill would be CCNC, and I don't know him. I don't know if there's anything bad about him. Just he hasn't been around as long as the other guys.
He gets toxic in pubs.
Yeah,
but he's always trying to get better. That's why his name is CCNC, because he's always trying to remind himself to be cool, calm, and collected. That's literally why his name is that. Is because he knows that he's toxic.
It's fucking stupid.
I can respect it. If that's what you want to try to do to get yourself better, go for it.
But either way, even if he's there and even if he ends up being moderately problematic, this is going to sound mean, but he's probably the most expendable guy on that team. So
he's a good mid player, but they're good mid players are a dime a dozen right now.
Yeah, they're and especially since depending on how it seems like with this current meta that having a great mid player isn't necessarily the turnkey operation it used to be.
Yeah.
So again, most expendable player, but again, there's no real reason that I know of that they should expend him. So things are looking good for Immortals. Things are looking good for Optic Gaming. Things are probably going to be just fine for VG Gaming Storm.
Yeah. I think they'll be good. They'll be middle of the pack North America. They'll probably go to some minors and do okay.
Yeah.
They're going to need a little bit of shuffling, and I think VG will have to put their foot down at least once on their players.
Probably.
At the very least, because somebody's going to say something dumb that's going to get piled on, and then they're going to have to say, stop it. Just take the heat that you took and move on. Don't fight back.
Yeah. Who's on that team? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I basically see exactly what you just said happening.
Yeah.
My other big gripe about Dooming Loom is man, it looks like I have a mustache in this lighting. Yeah, you can see the mustache a lot more easily than you can see the beard. Also, it looks like I didn't shave there. But anyway, okay. I really don't like how Valve is not doing any kind of extra monetization options for tournament organizers.
They might. They might
at some point. That's not going to
help.
That's not going to help ESL One right now.
ESL One Hamburg has freaking Mercedes-Benz sponsoring it. I don't want to hear it.
That's not going to help. ROG Masters. I don't think.
I mean, no, I hear you. I hear you. And again, I look forward to seeing what happens,
Which
and I hope that they come back to it.
Which tournament is that you said isn't going to have a live thing going on?
Bucharest. My understanding is that PGL Open Bucharest is a studio event, which quite frankly, I'm fine with.
I'm fine with it, but I'm fine with it because I know that renting an arena isn't going to turn a profit for them.
Yeah.
Again,
we'll see what happens, but
I really don't.
And it was funny because all the pros were like, nobody's going to go to that event if it's not new, because it's not live. Let me just. What was that, guys? Hold on, let me just pull this up here. Hang on. What PGL Open Bucharest? I'm sorry. Is it Evil Geniuses #1? Followed by, is that LGD Gaming Immortal? Navi is playing in a minor that nobody would play.
That teams wouldn't participate. Okay, I didn't really get you were saying that team.
I was mocking the shit out of the fact that several pros, including PPD, said that nobody would play in a minor without an audience.
The green.
Have you heard of the summit?
The money is just as green whether or not there's a crowd there to see you get it.
Exactly. And yeah, sure. It's only, what is it? 500 grand? 300 grand.
300 grand.
Cool. That's still 300 grand. And
also,
it puts
whatever,
you in Europe.
Whatever those points are.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of points for minors, but that's not that's not really a big deal. But the main thing is that you've got, for those American teams, for DCSA, Immortals, EG, those squads that are coming, and LGD and VGJ and Mineski. I don't think Mineski's playing in Hamburg, but you go there, it's the week before Hamburg, so you just stay in Europe. It gives you more time to get adjusted. Then you only have to move one time zone instead of 5 or 12.
Yeah. So yeah, I would like to see more live events, but again, renting out an arena is not free.
It's expensive as shit.
It's expensive as shit.
I know. I checked what it was in a small city like Portland, Maine. It's expensive.
What is it? That's quality content right there.
Yeah. It's expensive though. Not even an arena. One of the stages, show places, was if you want to book a venue or book an event here, it's $100 grand a day, assuming a bunch of other things, and they're supposed to get profits on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in a small stage thing. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember it being nutty dumb.
All right, I'm Googling around.
Trying to get an FGC event up here, and then I saw the pricing. I was like, nope, never mind.
All right, I'm Googling around to see what the cost is to rent out the Stampede Corral, which is an 8,000 seater. Seating capacity is 7,400. So it's 7,400 seater in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Small stadium, but more than enough for a decent sized esports event. Let me see how much it actually. I'm trying to see if I can find how much it costs. Looking at their sales page right now. All right, they don't actually give real prices on their website. That's too bad.
Not. If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, that's where WWE house shows go. That's where the minor league hockey teams play. That's that kind of place.
That's where the Cross Insurance Arena is, and that's a place that's so big that the main boat show and boating is massively.
It's big.
A big deal in Portland, Maine, because
they got a lot of coastline.
A lot of coastline, and you got all the waters and everything, and you got a lot of. Anyways, it's a big ass deal, and they had to move out of there and into a soccer stadium, or not even a soccer stadium, a soccer practice venue, because they couldn't afford to keep going there.
Yeah, and
it is expensive.
All right, let me. I'm really trying to find a price now for this. Whoa, that's weird. Okay, there we go.
Let me check something here.
Bam.
Because I've got another venue that I think I could find a price for relatively easily because they're that venue that I just mentioned, the soccer building. I don't even know what you would call them. Portland Sports Complex is what they're called.
Okay. All right, book the arena for the Rogers Arena, which is the home of the Vancouver Canucks. All right, so to rent the Rogers Arena, and I'm pulling this off of their website, which is rogersarena.com/book-the-arena/promoters. So the minimum price is $20,000. Please note the rental rate for Rogers Arena is minimum $20,000 versus 15% of the net box office receipts, net of HST and service fees, as well as house expenses, including 5.5 an hour CA, beginning 30 minutes prior to doors. So you basically have to pay a whole lot of money. $20,000.
So this venue here, I've got a venue here, that soccer arena that I was pulling up before. They have 2 turf fields and a basketball court. And the second turf field is actually not a full soccer regulation, it's a slightly smaller one.
Yeah.
So if you rent just that space, and it's just we're just talking flat sports space here, that alone is $6,000 a day minimum.
Nice.
And again, that doesn't include a whole lot of other stuff. So just know that and that's the kind of thing where if you also look up I forget who's tweeting it, but some of the FGC guys were tweeting about ballroom pricing and how expensive internet is for those ballrooms, like $20,000 a day.
Yeah.
Because so no, it's expensive for everything. So
okay. I can go down the list of equipment prices for
oh, this is going to be good. I'll tell you if stuff is high or low compared to the numbers that I have that I'm not allowed to say.
Okay, so for the Rogers Arena, so again, this is an actual hockey rink. It's where the Vancouver Canucks play. So relatively big arena for an esports event. Barricades are $500.
On point.
Curtains installation is $3,650.
Low.
Moving lights are $300 each per day.
That is low as hell. Holy shit.
Yeah. Double sink. I don't know what that is. Double sink portable is $100 a day.
That's literally what it sounds like. It's a double sink.
Really?
With a hose.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to skip through all the general stuff, but it suffices to say it is hundreds of dollars a day, or between $15 to $60 an hour.
Yeah.
For all the equipment stuff in the arena.
And something else that's important to know is that you also have to pay for all of the staff. Yeah. And especially in most areas, 99% of them, you have to use union labor.
Yep.
That shit's expensive.
That is expensive. But getting into the more important stuff, the more obvious stuff. So the LED, Jumbotron, $7,500 a day.
Minimum, that is cheap as shit.
Yeah. And that's for 4 hours, and then every hour after is an additional $1,500.
Okay, that's about on par then. Okay. That's on par.
The other video boards are same thing, $5,500 for 4 hours, then another $1,000 for every other hour.
Yep.
360 full power ring, $2,000 for then $400 for every other hour. Audio equipment, $1,500, then $1,000, then $500, then $300, then another $300, then $1,800. And
Yeah, pretty much.
again, and this, okay, the internet connection, pre-booked. You have to book this shit in advance. $150.
And pay this in advance.
$150 per line per day. So
That
guess how
is
much?
I mean, that's not great, but that's also nowhere near as bad as some of the other numbers I've seen for those.
That's not great, but also I imagine you're gonna need a lot more than one line per day.
Mhm.
So I didn't math it out. Oh, and then then guest services staffs. The cheapest person, and like you said, this is all labor. Minimum 4 hours per day. The cheapest person is $22.92 an hour. Most expensive is $36.81 per hour.
And that's
Minimum
on the
4 hours.
low end for labor. So yeah, point being is that
And
shit's expensive.
And then on top of that is the engineering staff for the actual arena.
Mm-hmm.
And like I could keep going. It's really fucking expensive to book an arena, and the fact that Valve isn't really giving any kind of incentive. Like if you are literally anyone, you have no reason to book an event. I don't think that the traffic numbers are necessarily going to be that different in terms of viewership on Twitch or any other outlet. We know that the teams, they might harumph about it, but they're still going to play. And on top of that, we've seen the Summit year in, year out be a pretty fun event without any kind of live audience. So why would you eat that cost? Why? There's no reason for it.
Like, I mean, especially when you're in a place like Bucharest where you have a studio already.
Yeah, and I mean,
like if you don't have to invest anything, like, yeah, it's we could literally do like 2 shows on this and like bring in people that actually know like if we brought in Papa Paint, like with what he can or can't tell us, like, and he's a dude that works in the FGC, like he's in the smaller side of things. We could bring in any number of photographers and talk about their rates. There's so many things that go into all this stuff, and we all need to remember how expensive esports is in general. It's cheap for the viewers because I can go twitch.tv/directory/Dota2 and go here and go, okay, cool, now click and be on Summit 2, bam, free viewership right there.
Yeah.
Or I want to watch it in Spanish, bam, there we go.
Jesus,
I want to watch it in Russian, bam, watch that bacon sizzle.
Oh man, I was scrolling through it and I saw the price for the cops. Like if you want to have police on hand for your event, which you kind of need because you're
required to have security.
$151 an hour, minimum 3 hours.
That's it. I mean, and that's the thing is that that's per person, 151 an hour. Security for Seattle for a small venue is $200 an hour minimum, and that's security, not police. You want police like an event like Key Arena, the pricing is a little weird because of just like the way that all works. So yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. So minimum 5 or lower 5 figures to rent the arena, then probably another $15,000 a day, let's say, and that's on the low side for equipment, tech, etc.
Yep. Consider the fact that every computer that you need to have in there is at least $2,000.
Yep.
You need, so that's 20. You literally on a stage have $20,000 worth of computers.
Oh yeah.
Here's something that I legitimately like. This is something that I wish more tournaments would do, because nobody does it as far as I know. Take those computers that were on stage that you assembled for that tournament, when it's an event like Hamburg or whatever, and get the players, have the players before, whatever, agree that if they make it to the finals, that when they go into the booth to play, before they play the final, they sign the computer. And then you put those computers up to bid.
Not a bad idea.
Think about how much like if you told me that I could bid $5,000 to buy the computer that Universe won TI 5 on,
Yeah,
or
that's pretty cool.
you know that there is some nerd out there that is willing to pay $10,000 to use the computer that Miracle used to win TI.
Or, Dendy. Christ.
Okay, okay. If Dendy won another TI, first of all, Dota would die. Second of all, if Dendy won a TI and somebody could buy the computer, oh my god, I have to tweet about this. Hang on, I gotta see. I gotta make a poll, so I gotta go to Twitter proper here. How much money would you pay to buy the PC that at Dendy Boss won a at Dota 2? I'm just gonna do a Dota 2 major because like that's actually like he's qualified for a major.
Yeah.
On. Poll. 2,000.
Depending on the results for this, you should probably at ESL and PGL too.
I added Dendy and I added Dota 2, so people are gonna see this. I should do. Well, no, it's $2,000 minimum because the computer is worth that much.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a fancy ass computer at those.
Friends, assume assume high spec. $3,000, $4,000, 5,000 plus. Sweet. Okay, there we go. Because I'm legitimately curious.
Yeah, it's a question now. But anyway, so
because like really, like that'd be a great way to sell those things.
Yeah, it'd be a collectible.
Be a massive collectible, like especially if my god, like or if like the team signed it, like the team that won, each player signed all of them.
Yeah,
that would be nuts. And that doesn't include like with TI, you've got every player has their own individual practice PC. Plus, there's all of the computers for group stages. Plus, there's the practice rooms at the venue. Plus, there's the 2 booths. Plus, the backup computers.
Yeah, game worn merchandise is it's a thing that hasn't really been touched on in esports, is it?
I would not buy a jersey worn by a player, but I'd think about buying. No, I wouldn't. I certainly would not buy a keyboard used by one of those players.
Well, I might, but I'm also in the market for a keyboard, so.
Yeah, but are you in a market for a keyboard that works, or a market for a keyboard that's been slammed into the ground? Because you think about how aggressive some of those guys are with their keyboards.
Oh yeah.
What we have gone so far off track in the last 20 minutes, and I'm not even sorry.
Fucking paying for an event is really expensive, and Valve has given no incentive for actual tournament organizers to do it on any level. So I don't see like that's deeply disappointing to me because theoretically you want to see you want to drive to an esports event and you want it to be Dota 2, and it's not happening because Valve isn't really given anybody any reason to do it.
Yep.
Like, part of that is because renting out an arena is stupidly expensive. And part of that is because the monetization options for actual tournament organizers just aren't really there. So,
again, hopefully they come, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, again, they could shut me up pretty easily by just like having a battle pass with money unlockable things that end up going to the ESLs and the PGLs and whatever.
Yep. Also, that was something that I wanted to talk on before I had to run upstairs. There is some small Southeast Asian company that's putting on 4 minors in Southeast Asia.
It's a lot.
So those could be kind of a big deal.
Could be.
Again, worth noting.
I would be very interested to see, and this kind of goes into a topic you brought up before. I'm wondering how much flavor different tournament organizers are going to put into their events. Because there's Captain's Draft, which is a thing again, apparently. That's gonna be unique based on the actual the fact that it's a different game mode than captain's mode. But on top of that, we talked about like before when they first announced the major minor system, DAC, where they would have like 4 Chinese qualifiers and 1 for everybody else.
Yeah.
And ESL One Genting, I think they had like
that was a weird one.
Let me pull it up. It was a good event though. It looked great. It was fun. Digital Chaos won, which was nice to see them get a LAN win. They had a 3 direct invites: an American qualifier, a Chinese qualifier, a European qualifier, a Southeast Asia qualifier, and a Malaysia qualifier. So we haven't really seen anybody do anything with that yet, and I'm curious to see if that's going to change.
Yep, fair enough. Also, I have 1 vote on my tweet so far for 5,000 plus. I have 1 person who's told me that he'd be willing to pay market price for it, as in not pay anything extra for the fact that Dendy won and signed it. So okay, dude. And I've got another guy who's typing me a couple of X00 more, so a couple hundred more. But again, I've also the people that are responding aren't really super Dendy fans. Oh, there we go. I got 1 guy who just said 3 to 5K.
Nice. I would say I voted on yours and I said 2,000, but that's cheap. I'm cheap.
Well, no, and that's legit. Like I said, like that's part of the problem is that like those computers cost $1,500 to $2,000. You know?
Those are fancy ass computers. But anyway, so
yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to talk about, or do we just want to get right to contenders and pretenders?
Let's do the contenders and pretenders.
Okay, so
after 10 o'clock here.
Yeah, so topics that we've been discussing are the qualifiers. We've seen a lot of interesting results, and rather than asking him some kind of 1-sentence question, or asking him questions that he can give a 1-sentence answer to, for this week's MTarget Talks kind of thing, we're going to play contenders or pretenders, where I'm going to list off different teams that have either looked good or looked bad in the qualifiers to these tournaments so far. And I'm going to let him say whether they are a contender who has a chance to be successful in a long-term way, or if they're a pretender who just kind of had an anomalous win and will probably ultimately fizzle over the coming months. And since we've been talking about Navi or Dendy, Navi, contender or pretender? I should qualify again. 2 qualifier wins for PGL Bucharest and ESL One, or actually no, StarLadder.
StarLadder and ESL One and PGL, not ESL One, because ESL One was taken by Virtus Pro. I'll put them at contender, but middle of the road contender. I expect to see them continue to do this. I expect to see them do reasonably well at majors and minors, but I haven't seen enough from them internationally to feel confidence giving them a hard contender. But I do think that they have proven that they are certainly not pretending.
Okay. Team secret, because 3, they've qualified for all 3 of the tournaments. They've beaten every single European opponent they've had, including OG, which is big.
Yeah, so I have to. Well, honestly, right now, I think I would actually consider giving OG a pretender label right now. So again, I'll qualify that in a minute. But I have to give Secret a contender because of how hard they did how hard they stomped Europe. But again, the question of what happens on the international stage. But I would place Secret a little bit higher on that contender ladder than Navi.
Okay.
Do you want to go with OG because you just brought them up anyways?
Yeah, go.
Okay, OG I got pretending right now because they're floundering. OG not Optic, but the Red Bull boys are having a hard time, and they have no freaking clue what's going on. It looks like, so they've got to get their shit together. I think that the team has the potential to put themselves back together, but I think that right now they are very solidly in the pretenders floundering category. They're going to have to fix shit up to be able to be contenders again.
Okay, so real quick, similar idea but different thing. Give me a ranking for the 4 different North American teams that have won qualifier so far.
Oh shit, that's hard.
Yeah, EG, Immortals, Complexity, and Optic.
Or, yeah, Optic. EG first, Immortals second. Oh shit, this is hard.
Yeah,
I mean, Complexity and Optic right now are tied, but here's the problem. Complexity, I am still very much blinded by old Complexity, by how awful they were looking pre-TI, and they are looking a lot better now, but I don't know how much better they're looking. And Optic are looking good, but I don't know how long that will last with the faces that are there. Again, I think they're all good players. I think they'll be consistent, but I don't know if I can see them jumping top 2. Immortals right now have me very impressed, but I do see I think everybody could go could flip by 1 slot, if that makes sense. So I could see EG becoming 2, Immortals maybe becoming 1, but I really don't see EG following any further than 2nd. I see Immortals going either 1 or 3, and then I see Complexity and OG being anywhere between 2nd and 4th. But I don't see Immortals falling down to 4th because I think that those guys have the commitment because they were willing to come back together after a year apart and say, no, we're going to do this again, and we're willing to move continents. Like, that puts so much extra pressure to do stuff.
Yeah, they've got both the momentum and the drive, it looks like. Because you don't move continents that willy-nilly. So, Mineski. They won the qualifiers for StarLadder and also for PGL Open Bucharest. They lost to Happy Feet, however, in the qualifiers for ESL One.
And that's the thing that has me concerned. Like, I'd put them at contenders, but I put them at medium contenders. So again, good. I think that they have a lot of potential coming out of over SCA, but I just I don't know. I'm feeling very bearish, no bullish.
Bullish is the good
hesitant in the stock market world.
Bullish is the good one.
So I'm feeling bearish on quite frankly in all of Southeast Asia. I'm just really hesitant to call that. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Right, and I was going to ask you about TNC because
man, I love TNC, but like,
well, quote unquote flopped in all the qualifiers so far. But like they were my kind of team that I was thinking was going to go far. Just because they looked, all things considered, pretty good at TI7 and having more time to gel.
Yeah. And I mean, we all know that one of my biggest things about TNC that I liked was the fact that they had Kips, and Kips Pool is doing great. I mean, she's working for Vega now, and my understanding is that Vega's definitely looking good.
Good for them.
So, like I said, that's the thing is that like I just want to be hands off on SCA right now. Like I'm really just not sure.
Okay. I won't push you then. Anyone from South America? Are there any?
Honestly, like any results coming out of South America, I consider. I do not want to comment on until I see them in international competition. Okay. Not because I don't think they're good, but because I have learned time and time again that South America is a large enough space that you can really develop some weird ass shit that will or won't work outside of it.
Yeah.
My favorite example is Smite. And that's partially because I was in it. Smite, when South America first showed up, trash. Absolutely trash because they had no freaking clue what they were doing. South America at last Worlds beat out some people that really had no reason losing to South America, or so everybody thought before it happened. And I really do think that can apply in any esport because you see it. Counter-Strike, hello. 2 of the best teams in the world, arguably a lot of South American players on them. So, you know, that's something to consider is that South America has got a lot of talent and a lot of players that are willing to fight for it. But again, I have learned international results are extra important in regions like South America, North America, and Southeast Asia. Europe and China are both, I think, strong enough that across the board that those results, at the very least, can be a temper for or a measurement or a litmus test for what's going to happen outside of there. Not always, but
Okay. Last but not least, is a double whammy of both Vici Gaming J, or whatever the Vici Gaming J Thunder. I'm like really mixing up which one's the Chinese one.
Thunder.
Okay, Thunder, and the regular Vici Gaming team. I should note that Vici
I'm pulling up these rosters right now.
Okay, Thunder won the qualifiers for PGL Open Bucharest, and Vici Gaming won the qualifiers for StarLadder. And Keen Gaming once again won the
Yeah. I'm gonna go
Hamburg.
100%. I am 100% contender for Vici Gaming. Paparazzi, Ori, 11, Lanham, and Fenrir. Great lineup.
Yeah,
the only problem is that somebody stumbles.
Yeah,
I think they're in it for the long haul. Just hands down, 100%. I'm on that.
Yeah,
super
Thunder.
This is where it gets hard. This roster is a little bit shaky. Aggressive and FY both left. Now FY went to go to LGD Gaming, so there's that. And Aggressive went for the Dream. So like what? But I mean, I like SLi3. I like Ghost. I like Fade. I don't know Yang, and I don't know Io, but I just it's a new roster, and that's my concern. Is I don't like. Hey, like this has been around for a hot second. Let me, like especially when the results are 5th, 8th, 7th, 8th, 7th, 8th, 5th, 8th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. You have to go all the way back to February to get to a second place finish, and you have to go back to last year for a first place, and that was with a completely different roster.
Yeah, the big thing that they can hang their hat on was last year for the Kiev major. I think they got a direct invite.
Kiev, they got a direct invite and they finished 5th, 8th, which wasn't bad.
Yeah, not bad.
But yeah,
Not
so
amazing.
I don't. Again, I will call VGJ a contender because we know how strong China is.
Yeah,
but I do not. They barely make a contender for me.
All right, so we're done. Like, who do you guys in the comment section say who you're contending and pretending about? Yeah. So the serious way of me saying that is like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be talking about Dota 2 going forward. Lots of stuff is happening in the competitive scene. I'm now in casual mode because we're done. Yeah. So comment about who you think is a contender and who you think is a pretender. Follow us on Twitter. And anything else?
Nope.
All right. So everybody have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and once again, we'll be here at some point in the future.
Hopefully next week.
Yeah, hopefully next week. May do some more lengthy previews for those tournaments or something. May do results pieces afterwards. We'll see. Either way, everybody have a good one.